Good evening and welcome to Tech Topics Internet of Things. I am so excited today because I am bringing along a special guest, one of our other library staff members, James. How are you doing tonight, James?
I'm doing very, very well. I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you all for having me.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited. So we are going to see a lot more friendly faces in our tech topics. I am really excited about that. So before I hand things over to James, you guys know that we always do a resource shout out. So today, the resource that we'll be shouting out is Kanopy, the Internet of Things. So there is a short Kanopy video on the Internet of Things. Highly recommend that you guys check that out. And now, before I hand things over to James, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera. And James, take it away.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Internet of Things. So the Internet of Things is a concept of basically any device that isn't a computer or a tablet or a cell phone that's connected to the internet and interacts online. A couple of examples of devices like this are like the Amazon Alexa, Google Home, digital assistants like that. There's usually like some sort of speaker and some sort of microphone that you can speak to, and it connects online to making controller the devices and such. There are wearables such as fitness trackers, the Apple Watch. You're not necessarily going to be browsing the internet, but you may be able to do things on the internet with devices like this. There are also a lot of smart home style devices that are things that connect to the internet. A couple of examples include appliances. Maybe you can control your thermostat through a phone app or through any of these digital assistants or security systems. A couple of examples of devices that I've interacted with. There are security cameras and sometimes Wi-Fi light bulbs that you can go ahead and install in your home, and then you can use your cell phone or a digital assistant like Alexa or Google Home to control the brightness or turn lights on or off, or maybe you can use your phone to like turn on a security camera, and you can go ahead and keep your home secured by viewing things through the camera all online. Sometimes these devices can be set to be automated. Sometimes you can interact directly with them. So a couple of things you can do with some of these digital assistants, you could have, say, for example, you leave your home sees that you're not connected to the Wi-Fi anymore, and it could automate turning on your security camera. And then when you get back home, it'll turn off the security camera so that way it's always on when you're not home. And maybe you could have some sort of alert. So if there's a loud noise or something like that, your security camera can go ahead and send some sort of notification to you, letting you know, hey, something is going on here, and then you can use your phone to see what's going on, and then you can make a choice, see if there's something you need to do at home, maybe head home, call someone to help out or anything like that. One that's also really, really popular are cooking devices and cooking appliances. So you can set up a coffee machine or like an Instant Pot or a sous vide cooker. Set it up when you head to work, and then when you're actually at work and everything like that, you can go ahead and you can turn it on so that way your food is actually cooking and done by the time you get home, and you can monitor your food during the entire process using a device and such. So as great as all of these things are, there are a couple of things to consider. So Tanisha, can you go to the next slide for me, please? Thank you very much. There are quite a few devices that are connected to the internet, and it's very, very complex how all of these talk to each other. Two of the key points to think about are privacy and automation. In terms of privacy, to get these devices to work, especially with some of the like Amazon Alexa and the Google Home, some of these digital assistants, they're always constantly listening. They're listening for you to say your trigger words or your trigger commands to get them to work. So that's just something to consider. If it's something you're not comfortable with, these may be devices that you may not want to invest in. So if you do want to use them, make sure you choose your privacy settings appropriately for what you're comfortable with it, for the information that you're sharing. Make sure that you're turning it off when you don't want your device to listen to you. Security. The more devices that you have connected to the internet, the higher possibility there is for security breaches. Usually each of these devices has its own application, its own login. So if you're going to use devices like this, especially if you're going to use multiple devices, it's a good idea to have different passwords for each one. Make sure that your passwords are different. Make sure you change your passwords often. So that way it's less likely there are any sort of security breaches. One thing also to consider when it comes to devices like this, there is a bit of a learning curve. Since you're usually not interacting directly with devices, you're using like an Amazon Alexa, a digital assistant, or you're using an application. There's a bit of learning curve with each application because they may work a little bit differently for each. So you have to kind of figure out where things are, figure out what each of your devices can do. And then if you take the time to automate devices or you have devices talk to each other, whether it's through different apps or anything, it may take a little while for you to actually test to make sure that everything works the exact way that you'd like for it to. So you may have to like set things up, try some things, change a couple of different settings and everything. So really, really interesting stuff that's out there. Very complex as you want to make it. A lot of it is very, very user friendly, but of course, it's better that you're very, very well informed before you take the plunge on any of these things. So, anybody have any questions or anything like that?
Yes, so if you have any questions, please drop those into the questions section. Thank you so much, James, for covering that. So while we're waiting for the questions to roll in, just a couple, as we do always, we end with our contact information. So if you want to get a hold of us, you can contact us by phone, email, text, carrier pigeon, however you want to answer, however you want to get hold of us, you can. And of course, if you want to see any of our other programs and events, I have the link for our events calendar there as well. And we just dropped the link for our next Tech Topic, same time, same place next week. Next week, we will be covering augmented reality. So, James, let's see here if I have a question. Oh, let's see what we got. Somebody has a question. We have somebody asking, what is augmented reality?
Augmented reality. Augmented reality is using some sort of device or viewer to interact with an electronic version in real life. So for example, if you have on your phone Google Maps and you turn the camera on, in certain instances, you can go ahead and hold your device up, and using augmented reality, you can see information about where you're at, or maybe you would have directions or things like that that would appear on your screen. Even though it doesn't appear physically in the world, you're using your device to interact with it, and it's overlaid over the real world. Another one that's really, really cool to use is Google Translate. Google Translate is set up in such a way that you can take a picture of like a sign or text in one language, and on modern devices, it actually can go ahead and translate that into another language. So if you're traveling and you're not familiar with the language of the place that you're traveling, you can actually use this to translate and you can kind of get a better idea and help yourself communicate.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, James. So we will be doing a brief demo of augmented reality next week. So I highly encourage you to go ahead and click that link and register for next week so you can get a little bit more of an in-depth look into that, into what augmented reality is. Another question for you here. Let me make sure I'm asking this correctly. How secure is making your home more connected? Does that make sense to you, James?
It does. And with everything online, there is a possibility with you sending information out there that there is a possibility for security breaches. That's why it's important that you're diligent with making sure that your passwords are different for each particular service. Services do get hacked. It is possible. It is something that happens. But the easiest way for your information or for your devices to get compromised is if you're using the same login information across all devices. One of the other common ways for security to get compromised is for a person to accidentally give login or identifying information to another party. So if you get one of those emails that says, hey, your account is locked, and it's one of those fake spoofed emails, someone who isn't paying attention or doesn't realize that, any of those cues that it's actually a fake email may click on it, and it connects them to the third party as opposed to like Google or Microsoft or anything like that. So that's really the most common way for these devices to get hacked, is if you don't have strong passwords, you don't change your passwords often, or the social hacking, where someone kind of figures out your password or figures out your login because you went on some sort of website and accidentally gave away that sort of information.
Great answer. Thank you so much, James. This is going to be our last question for this evening. Do devices like Alexa keep a record of everything that you say or that it hears?
Not that I know of, but I did mention that Alexa and Google are always listening, and there are trigger words and trigger commands. So oftentimes if I'm watching something online, if I have the volume really, really loud, sometimes when a commercial for one of these devices comes up, my Alexa will pick it up and it'll do something I don't want it to do. So say, for example, I have a commercial for like Spotify and it'll say, hey, Alexa, play this song. In the commercial, my Alexa will hear it and all of a sudden music will start playing out of my speakers. So just something else to consider.
Yeah, I know I've mentioned something very similar to this in other other tech topics and other programs that I've done, is that even a lot of these devices and a lot of apps and a lot of websites they do mine a lot of your data. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, but it's just more so of an awareness that there could be some data that these devices, these websites, these apps have that you may not be aware of. So it's just something to be cognizant about. All right, those were amazing questions. As always, our Tech Topics crew comes through with the questions. Thank you very much. So we are going to go ahead and wrap things up here. James, again, can't thank you enough for joining me this evening. It's always nice to have a new face joining me on Tech Topics. One more time, we got our contact link and our event link listed there. Please be sure to sign up and join us next week. For augmented reality. We'll go a little bit more in depth for that. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. You have a great evening, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Take care.